My name is Joseph Beige. I'm a real estate attorney here on Long Island, and I'd like to welcome you to today's program. What we do on this program is very simple. We discuss various real estate topics that would be of interest to you, the Long Island real estate consumer. Our goal is simple as well. We want to educate you so that hopefully you can make better, more informed decisions on your next real estate transaction. Now, for today, we're going to be a little bit more lighter than our normal fare. Instead of discussing the more nuts and bolts of a real estate transaction, we're going to be discussing something that's a little more fun. That's where to buy. There's the old axiom in real estate that there's only three things you need to worry about: location, location, location. And today we're going to be discussing just that. So whether you're looking as a purchaser to buy your homestead or commercial real estate, whether you're a renter, commercial or residential, today's program I think is going to be very interesting to you because we're going to highlight one of the locales on Long Island, specifically Babylon Village. And I have with me today, I think, the perfect person, and I'm honored to have this person here today to discuss it, and that's the mayor of Babylon Village, the Honorable Mary Adams. Mary, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks so much for the invite.
Thank you. Now, Mayor, a lot of people who, even if they have been Long Island residents, don't really know too much about all the villages, especially Babylon Village. And certainly as we see the migration of people from the West, which is picked up because of COVID, they may have no idea about Babylon Village. Can you tell us a little bit about the village, where it's located and such?
Sure. We are approximately 55 minutes from Manhattan to Babylon Village. In fact, the railroad comes right into the village, which is a great desirable feature that we have. And I do understand that there's actually an express train for those people that do commute into the city. I think it's a 45 or 50-minute commute. The village of Babylon is diversified in the fact that we have our waterfront community, okay, where we have boating and fishing and docking and things along those along those lines, are south of Montauk. And then we also have our business district, our downtown, which is extremely vibrant. Even during the COVID time, we've been vibrant. And then we have the north of Montauk highway community as well, which is divided up into different sections. Presidential section, where the streets are named after presidents. The Indian section, where the streets are named after, Indian tribes and things like that. We have another development where I live, which is the Frederick Shore section of Babylon Village. But yet we all have one thing, whichever section you live in or want to be a part of, the one thing that we all have in common is community. And I think that best describes the village of Babylon. We're maybe 5-10 minutes from the ocean and the beaches, yet the village of Babylon, we pride ourselves on having our jewel on the bay, which is our own village pool that our village residents can enjoy. And
we're going to come back to the amenities such as the railroad station. And I did commute into Manhattan for about 8 years, so I know there are expresses. And one of the advantages of Babylon and is with the train station, at least for people who are looking at potentially moving from the West, is that it's where they transfer from the electric to the diesel. So if you fall asleep on the train, like I always used to do, you're still going to be woken up in Babylon. You're not going to wake up in Montauk. Now, I just want to ask you a few questions specifically about villages, because a lot of my clients don't really understand that what's the difference between being in a village. And without getting too specific in Babylon yet, generally, what does it mean to be an incorporated village?
Well, there are certain services that, and it's a very good question, there are certain services that we provide to village residents that would be, they pay, a village tax, aside from the services that the town offers. And we're very fortunate to also have the town of Babylon, which we work very, very well together with Rich Schaefer and his team there. And a few of them are village residents themselves, so which works out nice. But there's more of an individualized attention given into a village. We have approximately just over 12,000 residents. It's a very quaint and charming village to be in. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Mayberry days, but then a little bit of the Cheers show where everybody gets to know your name type of thing. But there are different amenities and features that we do have as village residents. But then at the same time, we do have some features of using the town beaches and the town activities and pools and things as well. So when you're in a village, you kind of get the best of both worlds there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And, you mentioned there that you're a resident, that a lot of people are. And you're actually, it's unique because you wear two hats. You're a resident and also as a business owner in the village, which is why I think it makes you an excellent person to be mayor because again, you have to see everything from both sides. It's also got to be tough because there are times when you've got to make decisions that affect one adversely at the expense of the other. But just very quickly, can we just get a little background on you for our viewers?
Sure. I would think the year was 1985, and I had decided to get my real estate license. I was a secretary for a large firm in Nassau County, and they needed a secretary out into Babylon to transfer. And I remember saying to my husband at the time, oh gosh, we had lived in the village of Freeport, and I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this commute back and forth to Babylon. I'll give it 2 weeks, and then I'm going to find another job. And after 2 weeks, he had said to me, well, you're going to start looking. And I said, no, there's something very special about this village that I'm in, and I don't know what it is yet. So I stayed as a secretary for a long time. And then in 1995, opened a Century 21 office in the village. Was a realtor since, all of those years. Still am a realtor. I have an office there. I work with wonderful, terrific, ethical people. I love being a business owner in the village. And then in 2016, our former mayor, Scordino, had asked me if I would consider being a trustee in the village and representing the village, on that level. I was very, very much involved in activities there, took pride in the community and where I lived and where I worked. So to this day, even 5 years later, I'm still very humbly think of that moment that he asked me, and it still touches my heart. And then became a trustee. My role at that point in the village was I was in charge of the parks, the recreation department, providing programs for the children, handling gazebo concerts, all kinds of things, and loved my trustee role. I absolutely loved it. And of course, whatever the mayor needed, I was there to support him and to support the village. And Joe, I have to tell you, one of the things, unfortunately, he passed away in October 29th. It'll be a year already next month. And one of the things he always taught me in our conversations at 7:30 every morning was, Mary, what do we do best? And I said, we do what's in the best interest of the village. And that has stuck with me, from the moment he said it to now. And so now, with his passing, there was an election and I was elected as mayor. So.
And, I did have the pleasure of knowing Mayor Scordino. I mean, he was a legend, and that's the best way to say it. Wonderful person.
Perfect word.
Now, we're hitting a little bit on how, because you said you were a trustee before you became the mayor. Just briefly, how is the Babylon Village governed? How many layers?
Good question. Again, it is governed by myself. I have 4 trustees as well. They each have individualized areas of expertise that they work on. The job, a lot of people think it's a very easy position, that you shake a few hands, you walk in a parade, and that's it. For me, and I know for them as well, it's almost like another full-time job, not just ensuring the safety of our community, which is number one, but also of handling activities. That village pool, our jewel on the bay there, we start working on that in February to hopefully provide, a good summer for our residents. And that's making sure the pumps are done, the piping is good, the roof isn't leaking. It's all of these things. So the layers of government, we're very open in the village. People can call up to my office. They will get a response. People call my cell phone. I put my cell phone out there because I want government, and Mayor Scordino was the same way, to be interactive and not to be, kind of like I'm sitting in Oz and everybody else is around me. And it's the same thing with the trustees as well. A problem comes in. Our superintendent of public works has been with us for over 50 years. He knows every roadway, every electric line, everything in the village. I go right to him. We discuss things. We come up with answers. So we're very interactive with our village residents and the people that visit the village too.
And I think that's a great point, is that, especially in your village being smaller, everybody is accessible to an elected official. And everybody, and I have to say, even my experience, even though I'm not a resident of Babylon Village, when I did have, for example, an issue with code enforcement on inspection on a vehicle. A mistake was made. There was no attitude. It was they were happy to set up a time to meet with me and look at my inspection sticker and see, okay, yep, a mistake was made. Don't worry about it, and it wouldn't be an issue going forward. That accessibility, I have to compliment the village because it extends beyond the residents.
And I have to tell you, Joe, it's not just the everyday. I look at rainstorms, snowstorms, superstorm Sandy. I look at COVID-19, and I look at how our village, like every other place, people were weathering all these storms and, of course, a pandemic. And I look at the contributions of our different departments, including our fire department, who's all volunteer. And during COVID, they were out there taking care of people, putting themselves on the line. I look at our public works department that was not only during Sandy taking couches away from residents that were totally flooded out, but was also comforting them and, giving them a hug and giving them the support that they needed. And that's what makes our community so, so special.
That's great. Now, how are the schools with Babylon Village? Does the village operate its own schools, or are they part of the township of Babylon?
Yes, the schools are part of the township of Babylon. In the village of Babylon, we have 2 school districts for our village residents. We have the West Babylon School District, south of Little East Neck Road in the Fred Shores community where I live. A lot of those children go to the West Babylon School District, and then there's the Babylon Village School District. The schools government works well with them. Our number one concern is always safety. So whenever an incident does come up or something that the school needs to be aware of, we interact. Vice versa with the school interacting with things with my office.
Excellent.
So we all work well together. Yes.
Wonderful. Now, Babylon Village has a very vibrant business district. And one of the interesting things is that I remember growing up in an adjacent town to the village where other villages, other downtowns went through that downturn when the malls took away the mom and pop shops and before they had a chance to reinvent. Babylon Village seemed to have been immune to that. It always seemed to always be vibrant. There weren't a lot of shops with for rent signs or things of that nature. Now it's always been, but now it seems to be phenomenal. Speaking to a potential commercial tenant or buyer, what would you tell them about Babylon Village?
Well, I have to give credit where it's due, and that is also due to our zoning board, our planning board, the mayors prior to me that have always wanted a nice balance in the village of restaurants, of retail, of different types of specialty shops. So I would say to someone that's looking to come into the village, we're very friendly, we're very open, we welcome you in. You would have to go through the proper boards for approval, but that's what keeps our village so vibrant. And certainly my office is open. I have businesses that come up to talk to me and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of that idea? And we talk openly and freely. So it's not that they're going into this by themselves. It's kind of like, I don't want to say they're in a partnership with the Village of Babylon, but we all work together. Our Chamber of Commerce is very vibrant as well downtown. That even during COVID, we were able to host activities and things that kept people safe, but still promoting, downtown business. That would be my recommendation to people. Come on in.
And a little bit of a loaded question, but for a waterfront village, the village has, I thought, done a very good job of being able to preserve commercial marinas. A lot of places, because as the real estate has gone through the roof, a lot of marinas just sold out and then went condo. And want to compliment the village. I'm sure it wasn't easy to do that, but you preserved some excellent boat yards.
Yeah, we have. And, the other part of the community that of what we are, the other part of the Village of Babylon is it's our history. And exactly what you said, preserving that. And, our zoning board of appeals and making sure. And that's why our village code book is so important, because it keeps everything in line. It keeps, we follow things, and it's for the betterment of everybody, whether they're visiting, whether they're living there, whether they're working there. But it provides that basis for us to operate and to keep the village as vibrant as it is.
The village has a number of clubs, Rotary, Lions Club, and such, which I think is also interesting because that's another way that new members to the community are integrated and brought into the fold, so to speak. And you're involved with a number of the clubs. I mean,
yeah. In fact, you probably remember back of the days of the Babylon Tuna Club is where I first started, and it was the tuna tournament, and
the Snapper Derby for the kids.
Yep, the Snapper Derby, and then I went in and worked through the Chamber of Commerce, and then the Babylon Beautification Society. But it's very good for businesses to get involved in that networking, because sometimes not only are you networking your business and promoting it, but sometimes as a business owner, especially starting out, it's tough, and to know that you have that camaraderie of, wow, she or he, that business experienced the same thing I did, okay, maybe I need to step out of the box and market myself in a different way, like so-and-so did down the street. So it does help in so many ways, even aside from, just networking with people. But I found that through that, there was a new appreciation for where I lived. It added value to our village residents. When the Argyle Theater came into town, that was a home run for our village residents and for our business district, because let's face it, they go to dinner, they'll go to the theater, maybe they'll go for coffee afterwards. So, and now they tell people about, hey, you got to go to the Argyle Theater. So it definitely does. There is definitely something to be said with putting yourself out there as a business and networking.
Yeah. And again, even if you're not a business, again, there's all these clubs that are there,
sure,
and all these organizations. And you could have something every night of the week if you wanted to with the village clubs. I know that.
And those organizations again have one common denominator, and that denominator is to do what's in the best interest of the village and its residents. Like the Lions Club, they were helping the food pantries, the local food pantries, which is wonderful. The Beautification Society, when we had the fair a few weeks ago, that's to beautify the village with flowers and plantings and all of this. So, it is. It's all good things.
Okay, now I'm going to move you on to a subject which everybody hates, and that's taxes. And we're going to but it's important because I have a lot of my real estate clients who buy in villages, such as Babylon Village, and they really don't understand how. They come to me and they go, "Yeah, I'm buying in the village. I know I got to pay an extra tax bill," and that's all they know. And if they really, and when I start to break it down with them, they're okay. Oh, it's not as a better deal than I thought, because they just think it's an added tax that they're paying. They don't realize what they're getting for it. So, so if you were speaking to a future resident of Babylon Village, what would you tell them about when they see that they're going to pay an extra tax bill, but what would you like them to know about that?
And that's another excellent question, and I agree with you of how the perception. So someone coming into the village is going to receive two tax bills. They're going to receive a tax bill from the town and a tax bill from the village. Village tax bill goes out in June, where the town tax bill, goes out for the beginning of the year. So our fiscal year runs June to June. What you receive for your village taxes, I'll start with backdoor trash pickup. So the trash men, the sanitation department comes down your driveway. They go into your yard or wherever your trash cans are. They will empty your trash cans out, and they will put your trash cans back. Okay, that in itself, right? Our snow removal is second to none. Our guys are out there early in the morning. They watch the storm 3 days before. They're prepared with sand, all of it ready to go. The railroad, to use the railroad, as a village resident, you have a discounted price because you're a resident of the village to park your car, and you get a reserved space for parking for the railroad. So somebody coming from out of town, might say, hey, I'm going to park in that private lot. That might cost them $700 or $800. But in the village, it's going to be a little bit, considerably less. The village pool is only for village residents, and our family pass for the entire season is $150. That gives you the right to bring your family in there. We have a concession stand in there. It's overlooking the Robert Moses Bridge on the bay. You can't beat it for that. We have a village golf course. where you can play a 9-hole golf course. It's, you're talking $10 or $12. So there's a lot of amenities. And then, of course, the marinas. So if I wanted to, I'm not on the water, but if I wanted to purchase a boat and get a dock slip, I can go right through the village and get that dock slip. It's easy. It's simple. The village maintains all the slips that we have. There's over 400 slips there. And it's wonderful. So those are some of the items that, that you do get for your village taxes.
Now, when you pay the village tax, we discussed the two specific ones: snow removal and the trash pickup, sanitation. Now, does a person who's a resident of the village also pay that same thing? Because that's, in some places that's done by the township. Is there an offset that goes on, or are they paying twice?
No, you wouldn't be paying twice to the town. However, on your town tax bill would be your school taxes. And the majority of that town tax bill is your school tax bill. Yes. So it wouldn't be overlapping. You're getting a separate bill for the village services.
Gotcha. So you're not really paying twice. And that's the big thing that a lot of clients think they do. And there's a few, just on that subject, I want to say, when talking about snow removal, years ago I had a Babylon Tuna Club meeting on a night that it snowed. And of course it was one of those nights where it was supposed to be 3 inches and ended up like 8 by the time we came out of the meeting. And it was on the other side of the village. So I went from Babylon Township through Babylon Village and then into Islip Township. Both townships did a phenomenal job, given, roads were easily passable. But when I hit the village, it was like it hadn't snowed in 3 days. I really eat off the road is the only expression that came to mind. And I remember saying, wow, this is pretty impressive.
I have to tell you, our superintendent of public works, Skip Gardner, who was the gentleman who's been there for over 50 years, says to me, and he said it to me last night when we were talking, Mary, every day we try to make it just a little bit better here in Babylon Village.
Yeah.
And he prides himself on those roads. So
that's
thank
excellent.
you.
That's excellent. And we talked about the Long Island Railroad and the parking, and I discussed earlier about, again, it is a major hub. Everything starts from there. There are express trains from there. Again, not being a village resident, I had to find the alternative parking. At one time, that meant carrying, $3 worth of quarters to put in the meters. And I would sit there on the train platform, and I would look to the north, and I would see all those empty spots that were reserved for residents. And I tell you, there were times it was tempting to change my residency just for that. But again, for somebody who's moving from the west, who still needs to commute back towards Queens, Brooklyn, or Manhattan, having the railroad right there and that village parking, that's huge.
Sure.
And the golf, and again, you talked about the golf course. I play that golf course very often. I'm not a resident, so I don't get to use the pool except for once a year when the Lions Club does their pool party. And it really is a fantastic facility that you have.
We're in the process now of restoring Argyle Falls. And this has been a project in the making since Mayor Scordino. And hopefully in the next 2 months, that will be all, taken care of and just looking absolutely. It's stunning now. It's going to be incredibly
And for those that don't know, Argyle Falls is so pretty and so beautiful that it's actually a line of wedding parties during the fall, spring, summer, and fall to take pictures there.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's a point of pride. People who don't live anywhere near the area come out of their way to take their wedding photos there.
Well, if you look at Babylon Village, you coming into the village, whether you're coming in from the east or the west, you have 2 waterfalls to greet you. You have Hawley's by 231 Hawley's Park, and then you have Argyle, when you're heading to the eastern from the east or the west.
That's
so, it's pretty neat.
Now, let's switch from talking about pure residents. Let's talk about businesses. And, what are some of the advantages to a business about locating into Babylon Village?
Again, comes that word community. Our downtown is, we have restaurants, we have coffee shops, we have all kinds of businesses, but everybody's there for each other. So you open up, we do a ribbon cutting. Chamber of Commerce gets involved. You become a member of the chamber. They're promoting you on their social media. You decide to want to be a part of our fairs or anything like that. You can have a booth outside. But one of the great things that I notice about our downtown is how everybody's there to help each other. So when I was opening, Bunger Surf Shop was saying, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. You need anything, and it really does help. If I needed something and I knew someone else had it on Deer Park Avenue, I'd go and help. And especially during COVID, everybody, our business district came together, and with the help of government with them, the village itself, we were able to pull them through. Mayor Scordino, myself, we had Zoom meetings with our business downtown of what can we do to get you through this? How about we do this activity? Let's do open dining permits. How can we safely, seat people and not, and still listen to the governor's executive orders? So our downtown, they really work well with each other. They really do. And that's something that, they're not alone, so to speak, when you open up.
And again, you hit on that too, and I think we talked about it before with residents was the accessibility, but it being the way the village is structured and the way it's run for a business owner is that you have a partner in the village, and that it's the village can respond very quickly to help businesses individually and as a whole whenever something happens. Like you said, like where they had all of a sudden create outside dining areas. Maybe they had to start changing, relax some of the rules that had been in effect to help everybody get through a tough time. That responsiveness, I think, is very important. If I was looking at putting a business someplace, I would want to see, is my government going to be a partner and responsive to me, or is they going to see me as a cash register?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, we're going to get into a couple little tips and tricks.
Sure.
Okay. So let's say somebody, sees this video. Somewhere you're sitting at MacArthur Airport coming back, picking somebody up because nobody would ever want to leave Long Island because it's got everything you could ever want. So somebody's coming to visit you, you're picking them up, or maybe, you happen to go into the city for whatever, to a play, and somebody recognizes you, and you've got 30 seconds now. They tell you they're moving, their company's moving them to New York, they're going to have to find a place to live. And you got 30 seconds to tell them why they should consider Babylon Village for them and their family.
I would tell them that it's family-oriented, great downtown, the railroad, and go over the amenities that we have there. Open government, village pool, golf course, but the family orientation is that a lot of people want. I had met somebody who was living in another town, and it was just a strange thing that we had met. And she had said, "Listen, I'm having some difficulty with my children in school, and so we really want to move into the village." And I said, "Well, what's your reason for wanting to move here?" And she said, "Because of the activities and the community, I feel that they will embrace my family a little bit better than where I'm living before. I don't have a downtown." And sure enough, she moved in and she made an announcement on Facebook, and I saw it and welcomed her. And she said, "I can't believe you did that." I said, "Listen, bring your daughter down. Let me give her a tour of this or the fire department." And I think that's one thing. We're very hands-on there. Again, it's not that government's on a different level. We're all in it together. And that family orientation, that family community feeling started way before I got involved, Joe. And I'm glad to be pushing that forward as well, because to me, that's very important. The children are very important. So that's what I would probably stress to people looking to move into the village.
That's wonderful. Now, I'm basically going to ask you the same question, only this time it's not somebody who's being relocated because of work. It's you're maybe at one of the trade groups, industrial trade groups, and somebody comes to you and says, "Yeah, I'm looking to open up a new business and I haven't figured out where I want to place it yet." So again, you have that quick 30 seconds of time to turn to somebody and explain to them why they should locate their business in the village of Babylon.
I would tell them that the walkability in the village, the downtown, that you can be, the downtown is accessible from any part in Babylon Village by walking. We're a big bicycle community. We're a big dog family community. Everybody, you might not know people's name, but you know the dogs' names. To do something like that, to open a business, it's going to be very welcoming. You've got a very strong chamber of commerce. You've got different areas where people are going to come from, whether it's the railroad, whether it's from, the expressway, Southern State, it's all accessible there. And the community is kept well, it's kept clean, it's maintained. We do our infrastructure well. And whenever there is a problem or something happens, we're very responsive to it. So, and we want businesses to come in. So that's what I would tell them. But you're seeing more people now that are stressing the walkability and the bikeability into communities and bringing families together like that. And that's what we're about.
Interesting. And real fast, ask before we move on.
Sure.
There is actually a bike path through the villages, if I'm not incorrect. Right?
There is a path through Southard's Park, which will make people feel like they're upstate. We don't necessarily have bike paths through our streets because some of our streets are a little bit tight. They're small. But we've been doing bike runs in there. We have another family parade this Saturday, in fact, for families to join in. But a lot of families will go through Southard's. Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. And of course, everybody walks around Argyle Lake and so forth.
Sure.
Anyway, Mayor Adams, I want to thank you so much for being here today.
You're very welcome.
Your contact information is going to be popping up here, so if anybody has any questions for Mayor Adams or anybody at Babylon Village, they can speak with them direct. Mayor, again, I want to thank you so much for being here today and for the information. I hope everybody found this information very helpful, not just on the specifics about Babylon Village, but as villages in general, because there are many, many villages on Long Island. Not all of them have the same amenities, so when you want to look at the tax bill, that's going to always be separate and an individual. But again, Mary, thank you. Mayor, thank you so much.
It's Mary, it's okay.
Thank you so much for being here today. And again, thank you all for watching.
We'll see you in Babylon Village, Joe.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you again.
Thanks.